Welcome to Colorado Homes and Lifestyles, where style comes home. This recording is brought to you by Aftersight, and it is intended to be used solely by individuals who are blind or have low vision.
Thank you for joining us for the September-October 2021 Kitchen Residential issue of Colorado Homes and Lifestyles magazine. My name is Jerry Gingras. Welcome, Matt. From the editor, meet you in the kitchen. What happens in your kitchen? If you're like many of us, the answer is just about everything. Meals, meditations, early morning confabs, homework, late night planning. With more uses than any other bit of interior space, the kitchen is the family hub, and we love showing off the many different ways Colorado designers have interpreted this idea. This year's parade of epic kitchens begins on page 86, and throughout the issue you'll find all manner of appliances, gadgets, and accessories that offer utility and beauty. This feature's feature homes are wildly different. Denver Bronco Kareem Jackson worked with Kristen Thomas, Studio Thomas, to step up his stylish 10,000 square foot centennial home, complete with his growing collections of art and slightly less than gajillion pairs of sneakers. Then there's the basalt-based educator who recruited her NYC designer sister to help her create a comfortable high-altitude family home. I'm also excited to introduce Denver artist Kristen Moore. She is a dear friend whose bold color and heartfelt subjects will make any wall sing. Here's to hanging in the kitchen and breaking bread with people you love. Kate Myers, Editor-in-Chief. What I'm loving. Old school stitching. I first met Steph of Contrarium Chain Stitch at a Wildflower Nation event. The Denver-based maker uses a vintage Singer chain stitch embroidery machine to customize everything from jean jackets and tablecloths to patches. Because my husband and I have trouble sleeping, I had her stitch "Good Luck" as opposed to "Good Night" on one of our pillowcases. Steph's old school stitching can make anything a bit more personal and way cooler. Hex-clad pans. I can't even pretend that I cook. My husband Scott is a genius in the kitchen and blesses me nightly with his creations, so he seemed like the perfect guy to contribute a recommendation to this issue. His latest go-to, and he's working on a cookbook, so these get a lot of use, is Hex-clad hybrid cooking pans, whose surfaces are an etched hexagon pattern of nonstick and stainless steel. These instantly became my go-to sauté and pan fry pans, non-stick but attackable with metal utensils, good to 500 degrees in the oven, and they clean in a snap, says Scott. I have 3, and my old non-sticks are permanently retired. Hexclad.com. Every room should sing when Elizabeth Rao, owner of aforementioned Wildflower Nation, recommended London-based designer Beta Humans. Every room should sing, she told me. It's the first design book I actually read. While it's not the first for me, it's most definitely a favorite, and I keep going back to it. Human has such a fresh take on designing spaces and making them personal, livable, and welcoming. $34, Amazon.com. Contributors. What's the one thing in your kitchen you can't live without? Lacey Howard. A magnetic wall-mounted knife holder. After a recent move, I had my knives in a drawer for about 48 hours before I realized I couldn't live without one. Lacey Howard spent the last 7 years renovating a small century-old Iowa farmhouse, taking it to the studs inside and out, caring for a flock of chickens, and perfecting her DIY power tool skills. During the pandemic, she and Millie, her pup, started taking what Howard calls daily sanity strolls, to which she's now addicted. When she's not out hoofing it, Lacey writes articles and styles homes, studio sets, and covers for national magazines magazines, including Better Homes and Gardens, Country Home, Do It Yourself, and Country Living, as well as regional titles. For this issue, she wrote Epic Kitchens on page 86. Pete Eklund, my griddle. I love making pancakes for my family on Saturday mornings. It's become a bit of a sweet tradition. When we decided to profile Broncos player Kareem Jackson in his new Colorado home, we tapped former Broncos team photographer Pete Eklund for the assignment. Over the past decade, Eklund has added architectural and lifestyle photography to his repertoire, too. Shooting an athlete in his home, however, was a first. I had taken game day photos of Jackson at Broncos games, but it was the first time I'd met him, and shooting his home was a lot of fun, says Eklund. When he's not at work, Pete spends most of his time with his wife and 3 kids enjoying Colorado and the active lifestyle the state has to offer. Eliza Carlson, I love my newest gadget, a sous vide. It is a lifesaver for big dinner parties and cooks to perfection. Eliza Carlson grew up in New York City, immersed in the design world, and became part owner of the family business, Country Floors, at a young age. I was passionate about tile from the ripe age of 12 when I had my first job sorting antique Portuguese tile in the warehouse, says Carlson. Carlson is based in San Francisco and spends much of her time making short films for nonprofits like There With Care and remains passionate about all things design. When she's not creating, you'll find her surfing, climbing, or on a bike. Carlson is the magazine's market editor and writes Design Right Now, page 27. Natalie Condon, my Bialetti stovetop espresso maker. It has a small footprint, requires no filter, and makes a powerful cup of coffee in short order. Natalie Condon has been in love with words and nature for as long as she can remember. Born in Germany to European parents, she spent her formative years skiing, hiking, and working on her cousin's farm in Switzerland. Those experiences definitely made me who I am today. No wonder then that Natalie's trajectory landed her first in New York City, where she worked in travel and leisure, then in Colorado as managing editor of Ski Magazine. These days, Natalie divides her time between running an organic vegetable farm, editing for Colorado Homes and Lifestyle, and raising her 2 kiddos. Tastemaker Barbara Salick. A culinary masterpiece, Waterworks founder Barbara Salick dishes on all things kitchen. Story by Catherine O'Shea Evans. You may never have heard of Barbara Salick, but don't be surprised if she's been in your kitchen, at least via her massive aesthetic influence. The Southport, Connecticut-based co-founder of Waterworks and senior vice president of design for the hardware fixtures and cabinetry brand has been improving the nation's cook spaces for the past 4 decades, popularizing a yen for everything from Tuscan marble to fine wood finishes. So who better to write The Perfect Kitchen? Rizzoli, March 2020. In 2016, I wrote a book called The Perfect Bath, and almost before my pencil was down, it was like, oh yeah, and now we need to write about the perfect kitchen, she recalls. I mean, it was just sort of an extension of the sentence, to be honest. We chatted with Salick about her recipe for an ideal kitchen, including everything you didn't know you needed, and her tips for creating a timeless space. I have this wonderful pull-out for my pots at my old house. Literally, I had to get on my knees to find anything. This just pulls right out and presents itself to me. What pot do you want, my dear? Barbara Salick. First, tell us about your kitchen. Our house looks very much like an English cottage. It has ivy all over it and settles into the land really well. The kitchen is fairly traditional, so it all feels really compatible. That was important to me. If I was going to build a new kitchen, it needed to feel great. What did you do to achieve that great feeling? We had lived in one house for 50 years, and the original kitchen was built out of 18th century wood. It was not very modern, and it was not convenient at all. When we found this house, which sits overlooking the harbor, I didn't think I was ever going to do a kitchen, but I realized that I couldn't really live with granite countertops, and the kitchen sink looked out on our breezeway. So while we did not change the size of the kitchen, and I promise you it's small, we changed the cabinetry, got some really important modern conveniences, and moved the kitchen sink so that it looks out onto the terrace, which is so pretty and green. Without a doubt, the kitchen sink and faucet are the most used and important appliances in the entire kitchen. What's the aesthetic? I painted the bottom cabinets a dark navy blue, my favorite color. The top is a color that's called Whisper, a Benjamin Moore color, which is barely gray. I chose an active marble countertop because I think that's the beauty of marble, all the veining, and what happened when the earth was formed. It's sort of a romantic notion. And I tiled the entire thing, so it's a ceramic box. It's slightly off-white, but what makes it special is that the tile is handmade, so there are little variances all along. And it has a crackle glaze, so every tile is a little bit different. All the beautiful imperfections become more apparent when you use cement-colored grout. Given what Waterworks is best known for, we have to ask, what faucet did you choose? I have a Henry single-hole faucet in a matte nickel finish. I chose matte nickel because it's a great companion to the stainless steel sink. I have a pot filler, also a Henry, with a cross handle in this case, and you're probably going to think I'm loony, but most of the rest of the hardware is brass. I didn't want everything to feel like it was matched up. What's your opinion of all-white kitchens? In my dreams, I always imagined that I would have an all-white kitchen, and when it came down to it, it felt sort of bland to me. I'm not sure if I want to say that white kitchens have had their day, because people I know everywhere are doing them, but I sort of like the spirit of the dark bottom and the lighter top. I felt good about it not looking like everybody else's. What are your tips for using color in the kitchen? One of the first places I think you need to look before making decisions about color anywhere in your house is your closet. To be honest, if you only wear black and white, I'm going to say you probably aren't going to love having color in your kitchen. But I just think there's something so much more personal about having some color in your kitchen, and there's no reason to fear it. It's only paint. You can change it at will. What are 5 must-haves in any kitchen beyond the obvious? These are things I didn't know I had to have, but now I would never live without. 1, a pull-out for my garbage and my recycling with a drawer over the top of it that holds the garbage bag so that when the garbage goes out, the new garbage bag goes in, and the next day you're not saying, "Oh, where's the garbage bag?" I call this our aging in place house, and I have this wonderful pull-out for my pots at my old house. Literally, I had to get on my knees to find anything. This just pulls right out and presents itself to me. What pot do you want, my dear? The next essential is having all dishes close to the dishwasher. I can put everything away in literally 30 seconds. The dishes go in the dish drawer. I don't need to take a step. Glasses go in the glass cabinet. No steps. The silverware goes away and I'm done. 4th, I love my pot filler, and I must admit I cannot live without my instant hot water dispenser. What does art add to a kitchen? I have 3 very favorite black and white photographs in my kitchen, which I just love. I also have a glass-fronted cabinet, and over a gazillion years I've collected mocha ware, which is decorated in colorful pottery from the 18th and 19th century. And so by having this glass-fronted cabinet, I have put all of it in there, and it's always visible, and it's art in its own right. Having this visual of beautiful things all around feels incredible, and every day I go in there and say, "Oh my gosh, I am so lucky to have this." What do great kitchen islands require? Mine is merely practical. It's got the dishwasher, the garbage, a sink. And once again, there are no steps. It would be nice to have stools, but I don't have room for them. But there always needs to be an extra sink somewhere. What are your favorite kitchen chairs? I don't have a favorite, but we have vintage Windsor chairs, and they're tall enough so they add a kind of dimension to the kitchen table at the end of the kitchen. I like that they have a pretty profile because you look at them from both the back and the front. They need to be beautiful both ways. What are your tips for properly lighting a kitchen? It applies to the bathroom as well. Overlight your kitchen and put it all on a dimmer. Since we took the kitchen apart, we were able to put in these new recessed lights that are very, very small. They don't have the funny ring around the outside. They're truly recessed. Then I have used pendant lights over the island, which are really decorative, and some unlacquered brass sconce lights on either side of the range hood. And then a really special light over the kitchen table. This time of year, we don't have to turn the lights on, but when it starts getting dark at 4:30, it's just great. It warms the kitchen. Thoughts on the best flooring? We left the wood floor that I'd had before, but in my old house I had some really wonderful limestone that had some age to it, and I loved it. I really did. So my recommendation is, don't just put wood in there because it's available. The kitchen's a great place to think about something other than wood. Inspired Spaces, Jess Knopf Interiors, The Bungalow and the Bestie, story by Bruce Abels. A country club renovation story with a very cool ending. It was kismet, exclaims Jess Knopf of her role updating a 109-year-old bungalow in the country club historic district. Knopf, founder of her eponymous design firm, was thrilled for two reasons. First, the house was located on our very own block, and second, the client was a childhood friend with whom she grew up in Pasadena, California. At 1,678 square feet, every inch of the two-bedroom, one-bath home had to be imaginatively utilized. Ironically, the biggest challenge was its smallest feature. A tiny 30-foot square foot bathroom with a door unable to fully open, foiled by a toilet. An unusual wall-mounted fixture with a hidden in-wall cistern freed just enough space for the door to fully open. Other construction included converting a sad former sleeping porch off the bedroom into a true walk-in closet. Although no exterior walls were moved, the home underwent a wall-to-wall makeover, new plumbing and electrical, refinished floors, and a fresh coat of paint on everything that could be painted, including the very dark but gorgeous original woodwork. A lot of people cringe when you paint woodwork, says Knopf, but it turned out beautifully. We stripped 109 years of paint off everything. Benjamin Moore Chantilly lace white trim really pops against the white with a hint of blue ceilings, coated in patriotic white. The wall color is Swiss coffee, all colors by Benjamin Moore. Knopf mixed old with new and unexpected color and textile combinations to transform the home into a lighter, brighter, and more youthful version of its former self. This dovetailed nicely with homeowner Casey Westlake's cool California aesthetic and eclectic collection of antiques, including a number of beloved oil paintings by her grandfather, James Allen. This really was a true collaboration with such an old dear friend, says Knopf. We had a blast. Portrait of the Artist, Kristen Moore. Color, Memory, and Joy. Denver artist Kristen Moore brings boatloads of each to her canvas. Written by Kate Myers. Kristen Moore is a giant in exuberance, which may explain why this diminutive artist seems larger than her 5 feet, high tops notwithstanding. The Pittsburgh-born Colorado mom has much art world experience. She opened and ran 2 Colorado galleries, now works as a country club designer, and, as often as life allows, paints in her basement studio in the company of girl-heavy Spotify mixes. Her work is a happy accumulation of figurative forms, feisty humor, folk art elements, bits of Picasso, and lots of bold color. Pink ponytails, yellow horses, a well-dressed blue doll that has "How you doin', doll?" written in the background. These are trademarks of the Moore vernacular. Not at all a shock, then, that she vividly remembers her first infatuation with color. Someone had dumped the stones from a fish tank in the alley behind my grandmother's apartment on Ray Street. Blues, greens, pinks, oranges, and yellows. I sat mesmerized and picked through them, drawn as if by a magnet. Moore often spent weekends drawing with her Nana, who had been an art major at Carnegie Mellon. Expressing herself on paper provided a conduit to confidence for the painfully shy, studious young Moore. I did a super detailed boat drawing in my art class with Mr. P, and my father loved it and paid to have it framed. It still hangs in my mother's house, she says. I think that's when I realized the amazing value of art. It felt so good to have my father love it. Moore earned her BFA in painting and photography at CU in Boulder and spent time studying in Florence during her 20s. That is where I fell in love with art itself, she says, along with bucatini carbonara, fine leather shoes, and an Italian waiter named Roman. Eventually, she packed her fine shoes, said ciao to Roman, and returned stateside to settle in Colorado. Under that huge expanse of blue sky, I found that I was free and my creative side emerged full force. This supersized spirit is felt in her work. Moore's pieces almost always elicit first a smile and then a long stare, necessary to absorb the more complex ideas that the seemingly simple forms evoke. They also often impart a winking bit of humor, which comes as a great relief, as if Moore's acknowledging the attention but wants to say, yeah, it's interesting, but don't take it too seriously. I think that overall my art is expressive, she says. I love to simplify the subjects in non-traditional proportions. Symbols and writing play a large role, as do texture and layering. I'm not interested in realism. I love color and how perceptions can be influenced by different hues, how memories surface, times and places are remembered. Moore's Closet, a spin art of color gone mad and badass shoes, with everything from sequin-covered heels to faux fur pink hiking boots, informs the framing of her pieces. It's the jewelry of art, she explains, of her unexpected Baroque-like gold and faux snakeskin choices, all somehow elevating her work rather than detracting from it. Some have said my work has a folk-like quality, and I think that emerges from the simplification of subject and the intentional uses of unexpected colors. Plus, a childlike view always keeps the work more fun than work, and I never take myself too seriously, unless I'm hungry. Fall Faves, Sushi in the Hills, Sustainable Food Storage, and an Inspirational Coffee Table Book by Rebecca Gart. Eat. Tokyo-born chef-restaurateur Daisuke Nakazawa opened his eponymous Sushi Nakazawa in 2013 in Manhattan's West Village, earning a perfect 4-star review from the New York Times. 4 years later, he opened up a spot in Washington, D.C., and after a winter 2021 pop-up in Aspen, Nakazawa has settled into a permanent downtown space that's casual and buzzy, with just the right amount of intimacy. Executive Chef Wei Chen is thrilled the pop-up has evolved into a permanent move. I feel blessed. Aspen is incredibly beautiful with an abundance of outdoor activities, and I am beyond excited that Nakazawa will be staying long-term. We're excited, too. Nakazawa Aspen is the closest thing in our landlocked state to the Ginza district of Tokyo. No surprise, given Chief Nakazawa trained for 10 years under Chef Jiro Ono at his acclaimed Tsukibayashi Jiro in the Ginza district. Order off the menu of fresh sushi or try out a Japanese culinary adventure known as omakase, Chef's Choice, an indulgent 18-course experience. The sake menu is outstanding, but don't overlook the Japanese whiskey offerings. Read. Every once in a while, along comes a coffee table book that's not only insanely beautiful, but interesting enough to actually read. When my friend gifted me Life Meets Art Inside the Homes of People, I was blown away by the vibrant aesthetics of the big, heavy book, and I couldn't put it down once I started flipping through the pages. So much to be inspired by. The book takes a global, behind-the-scenes look at 250 interiors from the homes of the most creative people style and the history of art, architecture, design, fashion, literature, music, film, and theater. Author Sam Lubell provides insight into the spaces of luminaries such as Da Vinci and Dickens, Frank Lloyd Wright and Pablo Picasso, Louis Armstrong and David Bowie. His book not only offers a glimpse of where these high-profile creatives lived, but also the decor and architecture that inspired some of their masterpieces. Life Meets Art by Sam Lubell. Fade on 2020, $59.95, DWR.com. Thank you for joining us for the September-October 2021 Kitchen Residential issue of the Colorado Homes and Lifestyles magazine. My name is Jerry Gingras.
You've been listening to Colorado Homes and Lifestyles, where style comes home. If you enjoyed this program, please register for our free services at www.aftersight.org or by calling 303-786-7777.